This is New Media TV in London.
Yes, happy pie. Good evening. Good evening, all. Good evening, everyone. Good evening from wherever you're watching this video, anywhere in the world. Yes, I promised the last time that I will be coming up with some superb video clips, very short ones, perhaps 15 to 20 minutes that won't take much of your data for the benefit of those who are in Nigeria. Now, today, the date of this recording is Tuesday, the 25th day of the second month of February 2025. And obviously, by the time in London, it is approximately about 20:04 today in London. Yes, we're not done with Nigeria, as many of you will appreciate, and we still want to revisit Nigeria back in terms of memory lanes. And obviously, we want to talk about the political deception in Nigeria, and in particular, I want to tell you a little bit more about a former presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the last 2023 general elections in Nigeria. And before I proceed into bringing into the public domain and into the world, I'm going to start with a quote from Julius Caesar. The reasons I am starting with that quote, you will understand during the course of you watching this video from the beginning to the end. Now, in quote, et to Peter Obi, et to Peter Obi. Now, this quote by Julius Caesar in William Shakespeare's series was Caesar's last words to Brutus, which translates to mean, even you too, Brutus, in Caesar's assassination. For those of you like myself who were students of literature back in Nigeria in those days, I read Macbeth by William Shakespeare. I read Julius Caesar and a handful of those masterpieces by Shakespeare himself. Now, in that quote, et tu Brutus, I referred to et tu Peter Obi, but in Julius Caesar, Caesar was a Roman general and a statesman who was assassinated by about 40 Roman senators on the Ides of March 15 in 44 BCE. Please follow me very carefully. Now, the Ides of March is immortalized in William Shakespeare's play in Julius Caesar. Yes, it Ides of March immortalized. Caesar's death, that is Julius Caesar's death, resulted in a long series of civil wars that ended the Roman Republic's death and the Roman Empire's birth. Follow me very carefully. On the Ides of March, Julius Caesar was stabbed to death in Rome, in Italy. Now, in the play beforehand, a soothsayer, that means a clairvoyant or a seers, warned Julius Caesar to beware the Ides of March. So in other words, Julius Caesar, be careful of the Ides of March. In reply to Julius Caesar, after Brutus stabbed him, Brutus also says, not that I loved Caesar less, but that I loved Rome more. Not that I loved Caesar less, but Brutus made it known that he loved Rome far more than Julius Caesar. He said this to Roman citizens to explain why he rose against Julius Caesar. Now, using Julius Caesar and Brutus as an example now leads us to question the character of Peter Obi, a follower of Arthur Nzeribe in the Association for a Better Nigeria, ABN. Please follow me very carefully, because this is a unique video that will probably enlighten not only Nigerians, not only the Igbo section of the contraption called Nigeria, but the rest of the country. So now we're using Julius Caesar and Brutus as a classic example to actually portray the same character of Peter Obi, a follower of Arthur Nzeribe in the Association for a Better Nigeria. Now, this will become clearer to you as we proceed in the video. First and foremost, this will give you an idea of why Peter Obi lied to Nigerians and the argument to buttress our presentation that he cannot be president of Nigeria. No, Peter Obi can never and will never be the president of Nigeria. Secondly, the lies and deception by Peter Obi, Nigerians must never forget. Nigerians must not forget. Thirdly, this, as a matter of fact, is an exclusive gist containing details of Peter Obi's contribution to killing, maiming, bombing, and driving away strugglers of democracy to impress Sani Abacha, General Sani Abacha. Ex to Peter Obi, even you, Peter Obi. Peter Obi and NADECO Democracy Day. Let's put it that way. This is the biggest, I repeat, it is the biggest collective lie of all time in Nigeria's political journey. You see, Peter Gregory Obi is talking about June 12 as the collective democratic goal is the greatest insult to all fighters of democracy in Nigeria. Peter Obi cannot educate or enlighten me and a few learned people about the collective responsibility of democracy in Nigeria. Now, details are in the following video presentation. Let's get started. Now, a few moments ago, I read a piece by Peter Obi discussing the June 12th as the fulfillment of our collective democratic goal. You see, I could not believe that Peter Obi, of all the betrayals of June 12th, could open his big mouth by saying it was a collective democratic goal. Let's recap. Let's rewind and go back memory lane and all the events that led to the terrible event of June 12, because June 12 is in vogue at the moment, most especially with Ibrahim Babangida's book that's just been written, with all the gaps, like I made known in one of my streams of late, that I am still waiting to see if IBB will tell it as it was then when Obasanjo gave him the military order not to hand over power to a womanizer. Now, in the same June 12 saga, you will now discover the role, the nasty piece of a role that Peter Obi, who wants to be president of Nigeria, equally played at the time. Number one, let's go through them in details. And I've got 5 different layers of points to, as a matter of fact, buttress this argument, this presentation. Number one, in 1993, at the tail end of the unending IBB series of transition programs, the government of Ibrahim Babangida set up two government parties. You all remember the Social Democratic Party, SDP, and the National Republican Convention, NRC. MKO Abiola, the supposed winner of the June 12 election, emerged as the presidential candidate of the SDP, while Bashir Tofa was the NRC candidate. You all remember. Now here's the catch. Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida IBB was a student of Egyptian former President General Nasser. Now, General Nasser was equally one of those military generals that actually ruled Egypt in those days. So Babangida then molded his own trajectory to General Nasser's leadership style. Now, Nasser was a military general who planned a coup, just like Ibrahim Babangida, but handed over power to a senior general, Mohammed Naguib, to take all the international bashings that new heads of military juntas normally get. Now, you will now see why I used that classic example to bring in General Ibrahim Babangida. Now, General Nasser stayed behind and did everything possible to make the government very unpopular. So at the height of this government unpopularity, General Nasser overthrew his boss and received massive acceptance for his act. Now the head of state, Nasser, became a civilian president. Ibrahim Babangida IBB had done the same thing. He and his boys overthrew Shehu Shagari, but gave Muhammadu Buhari and Tunde Idiagbon power in 1993. In 1983, I beg your pardon, in 1983. As Chief of Army Staff, Babangida carried out some acts, yes, some acts that made Buhari's government at the time, the authentic Muhammadu Buhari, very unpopular. Now remember, Muhammadu Buhari even confessed himself that he was only invited to head the military government. Now, for example, Babangida sent soldiers to invade the home of the late sage, 76-year-old at the time, Obafemi Awolowo, who was the undisputed leader of the Yoruba people. Babangida also invaded the home of Sheikh Gumi, the father of the present Sheikh. The older Sheikh, the father of Sheikh Gumi, the present one, was Sir Ahmadu Bello's personal friend and a leader in the north. Now, when he translated the Quran into Fulani, the emir, that is when Sheikh Gumi the father of the current Sheikh Gumi, translated the Holy Quran into Fulani. The Emir of Saudi Arabia recognized him as an Islamic scholar. Now, after the coup that brought Buhari and Tunde Idiagbon to power, now Babangida got Alex Ekweme arrested in the east, whilst allowing President Shehu Shagari to go home untouched. So IBB, like Nasir, struck at this stage and took over. Just like Nasir, Babangida assumed the title of president immediately after he seized power. But before then, you remember, all leaders of previous military administrations and governments were called military heads of state. However, to become a civilian president, IBB began a series of transition programs that were never meant to produce a democratic president. The first ended with the banning of all most influential political candidates, 12 most formidable candidates for the job of presidency. And these people included a retired General Shehu Musa Yaradua, the elder brother of Umaru Yaradua, Adamu Shiroma, Chief Ulu Falaye, and Lateef Jakonde, the former governor of Lagos. So that program ended impromptu. The third transition scheme was also destined to fail. So he formed two government parties, the SDP with MKO Abiola as the presidential candidate and the NRC with Bashir Tofa as their candidate. Unknown to anyone, IBB was also grooming Igbo chief Ato Nzeribe to truncate that scheme. Ato Nzeribe formed a group called the Association for Better Nigeria, ABN. Perhaps many of you've probably forgotten about that. Nzeribe's, listen to this, listen very carefully. Nzeribe's silent deputy in that group was a co-Igbo man named Peter Obi, hence Etu Peter Obi. As the presidential election ended, the Association for Better Nigeria, ABN, approached, listen, as that June 12 presidential election ended, the association formed by Ato Nzeribe and his co-Igbo man, Peter Obi, approached an Abuja High Court at 9 p.m., which was an unholy judiciary hour, to procure a court verdict annulling the June 12 presidential elections. Perhaps many of you don't know. Yes, Ato Nzeribe and Peter Obi, two Igbo men, approached an Abuja High Court at 9 p.m., which was an unholy judiciary hour, to procure a court verdict annulling the June 12 presidential elections. So as a consequence, Nigeria's path to a democratic culture was once again truncated due to greed and personal interest. Peter Obi 1, Ato Nzeribe 2. Now, because of that truncated journey, it took another 6 years to get back on the democratic path. Make no mistakes, Peter Obi was part of the Association for Better Nigeria (ABN) that truncated Nigeria's path to democracy. Today, the same Peter Obi is talking about democracy. Nonsense. The same Peter Obi is now talking 32 years after of democracy. Let's carry on. Number 2, the second one. The fact that IBB die-hard democratic elements will take no more. Yes, they won't take no more. So Riwani, Anthony Enahoro, Bola Tinubu, the current president, Professor Wole Soyinka, Bala Usman, and a few others took on the military administration of General Ibrahim Babangida, insisting that the transition towards democracy must be made logical and the military must quit the stage. What happened? This gave birth to NADECO. Yes, it gave birth to NADECO. And the main financiers were Rwani and Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the current president. Many of you probably don't know. The pressure these two mounted on IBB drove IBB to step aside. Chief Ernest Shonekan was then drafted in as the head of interim government, and Abacha eventually took over barely 3 months later. As we all know, Sani Abacha happens to be one of the most despotic leader and head of state Nigeria has ever had. As Abacha fought back, NADECO became much more stronger. Igbo people they are not known to fight such battles. No, Igbos cannot fight such a terrible battle, or on the other hand put up a fight with the military. It is only the Yorubas, when we look at it, that are stronger enough to confront the military. So Igbo people are not known to fight such battles, but there were some exceptions to some Igbo calibers, and I'll give you their names. Ndubuisi Kanu, Ebitu Ikiwe, Ato Nwankwo, and it may shock you, Chukwemeka Ezeife with Ajashi, Adekunle Ajashi, Abraham Adesonya, and co were there too. Abacha, on the other hand, listen very carefully, also needed men to support him in government. And one of those who did the terrible work for Abacha was the same Peter Obi, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the 2023 general elections in Nigeria. Now, Peter Obi and company Peter Obi and his cohort hounded NADECO Some of the members were driven into exile. Some of NADECO's members were driven into exile, while many were killed. Igbo man Peter Obi was part of the think tank that planned all the mayhem. I repeat, Peter Obi was part of the think tank during Abacha's regime that planned all the mayhem inflicted on these pro-democracy people in Nigeria at the time. So the same Peter Obi is talking about democracy. Can you imagine? Number 3, the contribution of Peter Obi in the killing, bombing, maiming, and driving away the strugglers for democracy was so impressive to Sani Abacha that Peter Obi gained assets to Abacha's ears. Abacha, Peter Obi, you are doing a great job. Oh, come on, good job. So Peter Obi, the opportunist, because he was an opportunist at the time, started working on Abacha to transform Sani Abacha into a civilian president. Yes, you heard. After all, he was pretty aware of Ibrahim Babangida's initial plans as well to make himself automatic president based on General Nasser of Egypt. Peter Obi, the egregor, is now ready to take on any life. He was ready to take on any life of its own, and has convinced Sani Abacha that he could raise a group of young men to pursue his ambition, Abacha's ambition. So Abacha was never a part and parcel of the people that actually fought and struggled for the democracy. A handful of them in government are enjoying today. So when Peter Obi realized that Abacha had beaten the bait, he suggested that he should be financially empowered, and that he will not have to depend on Abacha to run the occult concept youth with a psychic entity to dislocate anyone obstructing their personal agenda. Yeah, Obi suggested that Sani Abacha should empower him, and that he would have no cost to depend on him to always come back for money. So Abacha acquired and made Peter Obi the CEO of Tinkan Island Port in Lagos. You heard? And this was where Peter Obi made billions, which qualified him to become the chairman of Fidelity Bank at the tender age of 35. You heard. But Peter Obi will not tell you all this. And he's not telling Nigerians all the atrocities he had committed and the type of terrible association and work he did during the Abacha's regime. Yet the same Peter Obi is talking about democracy today. Nonsense. Number 4, as promised, Peter Gregory Obi, the egregor, Peter Obi got one Daniel Kanu to set you up, to set up the youths with mob they named Youth Earnestly Ask for Abacha, YEAA. Yeah, Obi got Daniel Kanu to set you up in Nigeria with a mob, an organization or association they named Youth Earnestly Ask for Abacha, YEAA, which started campaigning for Abacha to perpetuate himself in office by turning into a civilian president. So from the route of Tinkan Island port in Lagos, Peter Obi financed YEAA. Their campaign method was to organize a large mob that marched on selected big cities around Nigeria. The biggest was the 2 million man march in Kano at the time. And at that time, no one, I repeat, no one could arrest those youths in Nigeria because Peter Obi was working in conjunction with the powers and the authorities in Nigeria at the time. So he cannot be arrested, and those youths cannot be arrested either. So it is instructive to mention and remind you here that this is where Peter Obi got that campaign strategy in 2023 as well, when he started the presidential campaign with the Million Man March from Abacha's period. So Abacha was on his way to achieving his goal. 6 political parties had registered for the general election, and shortly after Daniel Kanu's 2 million man march, all the 6 political parties registered in Nigeria adopted Sani Abacha as their presidential candidate under the influence of Peter Gregory Obi, Peter Obi. Yet the same Peter Obi is talking about democracy. Lastly, number 5, Abacha decided to mock the Christians in Nigeria at the time. You all remembered. The churches had not been infiltrated as at that time by charlatans like Paul Eniche and Johnson Suleiman. Others like Bishop Oyedepo had not been bought or taken over by politicians who were calling, they were all calling Oyedepo and all the fantastic men of God at the time called for national prayers for God to remove from Nigeria the evil ones. So as a consequence, Abacha also decided to call for national prayers. The theme of Abacha's prayers was for God to remove anyone trying to cause evil in Nigeria. Prayers were held in all mosques in Nigeria on June 5th, 1998, and in all churches that were working with Peter Obi in conjunction with Peter Obi in conjunction with his association on June 7, 1998. So, to God be the glory. guess what? Our Heavenly Father heard the prayers of those Baba at the time, Oyedepo and Co. And God suddenly removed Sani Abacha on June 8, 1998. And that ended the terrible and most disgusting era of a despotic leader. The Abacha project with Peter Obi then came to an end with the death of Abacha. Abdulsalam Abubakar, as we all know, took over and promised a return to democracy in 1999. He kept his word. Now loaded with money, I'm not referring to Peter Obi, now loaded with money from the Tinkan Island port in Lagos and Fidelity Bank, Peter Obi became a founding member of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, in 1998, when the ban on politics was lifted by Abdulsalam Abubakar. Now, this was the point that most people knew as the beginning of the political journey of Peter Obi. None of you were able to actually look at it from a different angle, that Peter Obi milked the Lagos Tinkan Island port from the custom and excise duty that were being offloaded in the Lagos port, and that both the money from the Lagos Tinkan Island port, Peter Obi used part of that money to purchase Fidelity Bank, and as Abdulsalam Abubakar lifted the ban on political activities in 1998, then Peter Obi had the financial clout to buy himself into power, and by so doing he then became one of the governors in the East, because he was loaded with money. And this was the point that most people knew Peter Obi. But history will not forget every role played by any human being. Yet the same Peter Obi is talking about democracy today, and he is aspiring to want to lead Nigeria and to become the president of Nigeria. Now, listen guys, leave your thoughts and your comments below, and if you think Peter Obi should become the president, let's know. If you think, based on this expose that I've just opened up to tell you more about Peter Obi, because there are more and more of these revelations coming in from time to time, and I won't be too scared to actually bring everything to your notice. So guys, that's all for now. Now, if this is your first time on our channels, or you are a returning subscriber, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us on Facebook and YouTube. Also, hit that notification bell. Hit the notification bell so you get notified anytime we post a new video or live streaming. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. See you in our next video. Take good care of yourselves, and God bless you.